911, what's your emergency?
I heard screaming, and then it just stopped. I ran over. The front door was wide open. Her dog's still inside.
Welcome to True Animal Terrors, where real danger meets real stories. Don't look away. Stay with us as we uncover the heartbreaking true story of Lisa Erso, a woman whose compassion knew no limits, in the rescue that would become her greatest and final challenge. Welcome to True Animal Terrors, where real danger meets real stories. Engleside, Illinois had the kind of quiet that felt permanent, the kind that settled deep into the bones of the town. On certain spring afternoons, it was almost dreamlike. The lilac bushes lining the narrow streets released a soft sweetness into the air, mingling with the faint green scent of freshly cut grass. Sunlight spilled over the pitched rooftops, sliding down the weathered, clapboard siding of homes that had stood for generations. You could hear the creak of porch swings in the breeze, the lazy chatter of robins, and the occasional bark of a dog in the distance. It was a place where danger felt like an unwelcome rumor from far away, something that happened in bigger cities to people you didn't know. But stillness can be deceptive. Sometimes it hides things in plain sight. Sometimes the darkest shadows don't gather in alleyways or forest edges. They wait in the places you feel safest. And on a warm afternoon in May, behind the white siding and lace curtains of one modest house in Engleside, the life of a woman devoted to saving animals would take a violent and unthinkable turn. At the center of this story was 52-year-old Lisa Erso, warm-hearted, stubborn in her compassion, and known to everyone in town as the woman who never turned away an animal in need. She didn't just rescue them, she believed in their redemption. To Lisa, a broken animal wasn't a burden. It was a challenge, a soul worthy of the same patience and kindness she gave to friends. Her home tucked near Long Lake was more than just a place to live. It was a sanctuary. Mornings there smelled of damp earth and coffee. Evenings hummed with crickets, and there was always a soft rustle of movement from the rescued animals she cared for. Blue was one of them, a compact French bulldog with a stocky, muscular frame. He had the thick neck and broad chest of a fighter. He'd been pulled from the shadows of an illegal fighting ring, a brutal world where survival meant aggression and trust was a luxury. His eyes were watchful, assessing. To most, he looked like trouble waiting to happen. To Lisa, he was simply a survivor who deserved another chance. She believed that love given consistently and without judgment could undo years of cruelty. Neighbors sometimes saw her walking him along the cracked sidewalks, her voice low and gentle as she spoke to him, the leash slack between them. But beneath those peaceful moments, there were signs that Blue's past wasn't gone. His body would stiffen, suddenly muscles taut under his short coat. A low growl would rumble up from his chest. His gaze could lock on something or someone with unnerving intensity, as if the old instincts were still coiled inside him waiting. The warning signs grew harder to ignore after an incident weeks before the tragedy. Lisa's boyfriend had been on the receiving end of Blue's sudden fury, a snap so fast and fierce it left serious injuries. Friends urged her to be cautious, some bluntly suggesting she give the dog up before something worse happened. Lisa refused. "He's been through too much already," she would say. "I'm not giving up on him now." It was the same conviction that had guided every rescue she'd ever taken in, and this time it would place her in grave danger. May 9th began like any other spring day in Engleside. Morning sunlight streamed through Lisa's lace curtains, catching the dust in delicate floating patterns. She went about her errands unhurried, stopping at a local shop to exchange a few words with a friend about the warming weather. There was no hint in her voice, no shadow in her expression that anything was wrong. By early afternoon, she was back home, Blue trotting beside her up the driveway, his nails clicking faintly against the concrete. A few neighbors later recalled hearing sharp bursts of barking from inside the house. They thought nothing of it, just the usual sounds of a dog settling in after a walk. Inside, Lisa moved through her rooms with the easy rhythm of routine. She put away groceries, straightened cushions on the couch, perhaps filled Blue's water bowl, or tidied the corner he'd claimed as his own. He followed her from room to room, the sound of his claws on the hardwood trailing her steps. Then something shifted. It was subtle, the kind of change only those attuned to an animal's body language might notice. Blue's stance lowered, his head dropped slightly forward. His breathing deepened, quickened. The hair along his spine might have bristled, a silent warning. A low, resonant growl began to form in his chest, vibrating in the quiet air of the living room. For Lisa, there might have been only a moment's pause, a flicker of confusion, maybe an attempt at reassurance. "Hey, it's okay," she could have murmured, her voice steady the way she always spoke to nervous rescues. But this time, love and calm words would not be enough. The years Blue had spent in survival mode, the instincts etched into muscle and memory, were about to surge to the surface. What happened next inside that quiet Illinois home is locked forever within its walls, but the signs of escalation were there, subtle at first, then unmistakable. The line between warning and violence can be crossed in the space of a few heartbeats. Somewhere in the midst of it, a single bark rang out, sharp, final, like the crack of a whip in still air. Then silence. Hours passed without the outside world suspecting anything was wrong. In other houses, phones rang, children laughed in backyards, dinners were cooked, and the steady hum of a lawn trimmer faded into dusk. But Lisa Erso's home remained unnervingly still. No voices, no footsteps, not even the sound of Blue's nails on the hardwood. It was a close friend worried after unanswered calls and texts who decided to check in. Lisa wasn't the kind of person to go silent, especially on a Saturday. Pulling into the driveway, the friend saw nothing alarming at first. The porch light was off, the curtains drawn just enough to conceal the rooms inside. The front door opened easily. One step into the living room and the stillness broke. Blue was there, loose, pacing his nails, scratching faint grooves into the floorboards. His movements were restless, quick, his head jerking toward the intruder. His muzzle was flecked with something darker than shadow. The friend froze. The air was thick with the metallic tang of blood. The living room told the rest of the story in fragments: overturned cushions, a shattered mug, streaks of red leading toward the kitchen. The 911 call was short, the words clipped and urgent. Within minutes, the quiet street was awash in flashing red and blue lights, police radios crackling under the hum of engines. Body cam footage later captured the moment officers entered. Voices tightened as they surveyed the scene. Lisa lay motionless on the floor, her body bearing severe bite wounds to her arms, legs, and torso. There were no signs of forced entry. The violence had come entirely from within. The coroner's report confirmed it: death from multiple bite wounds. A clinical verdict for something unspeakably brutal. Investigators soon turned to Blue's past. Records traced him to an illegal dogfighting ring, a hidden world where dogs weren't companions but weapons. Loyalty was replaced with fear, affection with pain. Dogs there learned to survive through violence, their instincts sharpened to a deadly edge. Blue had been seized in a raid, one of several pulled from rusted cages and blood-stained floors. Rescue workers stepped in, hoping to trade brutality for care. But as rehabilitation experts know, not all scars are visible and not all can heal. Lisa met Blue through such a rescue. His size, his compact body made her believe he could be managed. Friends recall her saying he needed love, a warm bed, and someone who wouldn't give up. But even early on, there were warnings: a stiffened stance at sudden movements, a deep growl rising without provocation. Weeks before May 9th, that tension erupted. Blue attacked Lisa's boyfriend during what was described as a routine moment. The injuries required medical treatment. Animal control was notified, and Blue was flagged as dangerous, a label that often leads to strict restrictions or removal. Lisa knew the risks but chose to keep him. She saw the attack as a flare of old trauma, not a permanent danger. She believed patience and kindness could undo the conditioning of a fighter. But experts who reviewed the case offered a harder truth: a dog conditioned for combat carries ingrained responses that can surface in an instant. Rehabilitation is possible, but unpredictability never disappears entirely. The question now loomed heavy: if the warnings had been heeded, if the past had not been softened by hope, could Lisa's death have been prevented? That night, the street outside her home glowed in the pulse of emergency lights. Neighbors stood in their driveways, arms folded, faces pale in the flicker. The silence was broken only by the low rumble of idling engines and clipped commands from officers. From inside, animal control emerged with Blue. Small in stature, he seemed almost diminished in the heavy loop of the catch pole, his head lowered, breathing rapid. He made no sound as he was led away. The neighbors who had once seen Lisa walking him down this street under the soft sun of spring only watched. No one spoke, no one cheered. There was only the sharp, unshakable grief of knowing that for Lisa, love had always been enough until the day it wasn't. In the quiet safety of her own home, Lisa's greatest strength, her unwavering belief in redemption, had become her undoing. In the days that followed, the shock gave way to grief and grief to remembrance. Friends and family sifted through years of photographs searching for the right ones to honor her life. They found her crouched in the grass, smiling as a rescued dog pressed against her side. Her hands always gentle, cradled faces that had once known only neglect. These images sat alongside the stark, grainy photographs from that night, the kind captured by police cameras framed in the harsh, unfeeling light of a flash. The contrast was almost unbearable. Lisa's death was not just the story of one dog. It became a mirror reflecting an uncomfortable truth that danger can hide behind the warm glow of porch lights and the comfort of familiar walls. It was a reminder that sometimes the very creatures we fight hardest to save cannot be changed no matter how deeply we love them. Weeks later, Engleside still felt the weight of what had happened. The lakefront air was cool, the streets quiet, but there was an unspoken heaviness between neighbors. The flowers left at Lisa's porch had wilted, their petals brittle, yet the questions they symbolized remained sharp. People who had once waved to her on morning walks now found themselves asking the same thing. Could it have been prevented? Animal behavior specialists discussed the case with voices heavy with regret. One explained that dogs pulled from fighting rings carry more than physical scars. They carry an invisible history etched into their instincts. Years of conditioning to fight shape not just muscle, but mind, creating reflexes that can awaken without warning. Another expert emphasized the need for thorough professional evaluation before such dogs are placed in homes. Love is powerful, she said softly, but love without boundaries can become dangerous for the animal and for the person. The advice that followed was unflinching, structured training. Realistic expectations and behavioral assessments aren't optional luxuries. They are the fragile line between rehabilitation and tragedy. Lisa's story, they agreed, wasn't simply about one attack. It was about the delicate balance between compassion and caution, about understanding that while the bond between humans and animals can be transformative, it must be protected with vigilance. Because behind even the gentlest eyes, there can live a storm you cannot see. And sometimes love alone is not enough to calm it. Her death wasn't an isolated case. It was a truth whispered in the hallways of rescue shelters, noted in police reports, and carried in the quiet, enduring grief of families who thought they were safe until the moment they weren't. Lisa Erso's story is a sobering reminder that even the most loving intentions can't erase the instincts forged in an animal's darkest days. It forces us to ask, where is the line between compassion and caution, and what risks are worth taking in the name of rescue? If this story moved you, please like, comment, and share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life encounters that warn, inspire, and honor the bond between humans and animals. We'd love to hear your experiences or reflections on the balance between love and safety. Thanks for watching and for remembering that true respect for animals begins with understanding their nature.